All right. Well, hey, good morning, everybody. As you all know, we are, and well, let me just jump into one thing real quick. So, because I was just sitting there going, hey, the talking head stuff, and then he says, hey, come to GapCon. So let me tell you how to be a conference commando. This is one of the things I always talk about. Hey, if you're going to go to a conference, you attack a conference. And the way that you attack a conference is you have your own conference while you're at the conference. And what I mean by that is, it's great. I'm not opposed to going and hearing people speak. I think it's a good thing to get those things. I think the miss a lot of times is we consume so much and it never translates. It lives on some piece of paper sitting somewhere for weeks and weeks that you never get back out again. And it was good and it made us feel good. I remember in church world, people used to like moo like cows. Like that kind of thing. And so we all kind of get medicated by all that kind of stuff. But the truth of the matter is, if you say, hey, I'm only going to go to the conference and go through a series of lenses. Could be anything that's relevant or personal to you. So for instance, if I say, hey, I want to be specifically paying attention to like how I take care of myself, my energy, or my focus. Okay? Now when I'm listening to a speaker, I'm listening through it through a specific lens. I'm looking for certain things that are going to apply specifically that I'm going to take and use immediately. The second thing is the breaks are a good time to have your own breaks. Or in some cases, like a lot of times if I go to a conference, I'm contacting other people that I aspire to meet with or want to spend time with, and I have time with them. Like I go, hey, I'm going out to dinner. I'll get a bigger table. If you guys want to come, we'll talk about what we learned today. And I throw that invitation out. I always get takers. I don't have a full table every time, but a lot of times, if I'm going to lunch, if we have a lunch break and you're going to lunch, hey, grab some people and then talk about, hey, what's the application going to be like? So that way, it's not something where it's an event I went to where I wrote a bunch of stuff down and it sat someplace. It's actually you're going in there with the attitude that, hey, I'm going to take something away for me today that I will use and leverage each and every day. So does that make sense? So put that in your pipe and smoke it. It's one of those things where, speaking of marijuana, but it's one of those, I got that on video too, didn't you? And so, but the whole thing with that is go in with a strategy. Just don't go in and be a consumer, because I just think I see too many people spend a lot of their leadership dollars on things that don't translate. So make it translate. Be responsible for your development. Cool deal? All right, so hey, today I'm going to coach you. Today I want to coach you through how to finish the year strong. Our focus today is going to be in a combination of finishing 2023 strong going into 2024. But I want to give you some mindset concepts. I want to give you some things for you to thrash through, but I also want to give you some heavy application pieces to this. So there will be homework, friends. And let me tell you something. If you do the homework, if you send your homework to me, I'll have something special for you in return. So how's that for a deal, right? So here's the deal. So my email is invisibleinsights@gmail.com. invisibleinsights@gmail.com. And if you say, Kevin, I did my homework, and here's what I did, and this is what I got, and you have that laid out for me, and you send it to me like in a PDF or an email or whatever that is. If you want to send it in a video, you can. I'll be fine with that too. But I will in turn, I have some stuff I can shoot your way that will be fun and exciting, and you'll enjoy it. So today we're talking about high performance pathway blueprints, and we want to finish the year in a dynamic way. I want the year to end it. To be a high performance experience for you. And my journey in the last few months, I joined a brand new mastermind group. I've been in mastermind groups in the past. I have a mastermind group that I joined that I go to Los Angeles first of every month, and we spend 2 days together. And then we come back. And so in the process of all that, I've been exposed to some people that are blowing my mind right now. And our whole goal as a team, as a group, as a mastermind is we want to have a dynamic end of the year. We want to be able to finish the year because we think the opportunities and the challenges in 2024 are going to be great. Would you guys agree with me? And there's a lot of things I think we need to understand when it comes to that. So we're going to dig into this. So the question that you need to ask yourself right now, and this is what I'm going to ask you to take a minute and write out, is who needs you on your A game right now? Like if you had to write down names specifically, like write them down. This is like, I'm coaching you. So if I'm coaching them, so like who needs you on your A game right now? Tell me who they are. Write them down. Is it your wife? Is it your husband? Is it your kids? Is it your boss? Who needs you on your A game right now? Take a second. Because I want those names to be fresh. I want those names to be in front of you. Whenever you have a connection between what you need to do and who it is that you need to impact, it gets very real. And if you say, hey, look, you know what? My family right now needs me on my A game, beautiful. Then you have all the motivation in the world to do what it is that you need to do here. So who is that? And then I'm going to ask you a second question. And this is a more important question, but everyone's got another level to go to. So let me ask you a question. What does your next level look like? Like, what does your next level look like? Are you clear about where you need to level up? Now, I'm not nice when I talk to people about this. A lot of times people take my picture out of their wallet. Because I'm going to push and say, look, it's all fine and dandy for us to have a little bit of a warm moment and understand one another and have empathy. We've been doing empathy for a long time the last few years. A lot of empathy coming out of 20. I'm done with empathy. I want us to start moving. Somewhere along the way, we got to get past the last few years. I'm saying it now, but I'm not saying the word pandemic anymore. I'm done with the pandemic. I'm done. I'm moving forward. And so the question that we have to ask ourselves is, if there's areas that we need to go to another level, and what does that look like? Well, let me give you some life arenas. What does it look like to go to the next level in your health? What does that look like? I was 297 a year ago. I'm 235 1 year later. Yes. Now I'm going to another level. I'm going to try to lose another 10. Another 10 pounds would be a beautiful thing. But my health, I needed to level up in, because people who needed me on my A game were the people I loved the most. And I turned 60. Can you believe that? I just turned 60 years old. Now here's the thing. If the average male lives to age 76, that means I got 16 summers left. I got too much crap I want to do. I got all kinds of stuff I want to get done. So I'm not messing around with this anymore. I'm sorry, the Oreos, it's not happening. No more Oreos. But what does that look like for you? What's the next level look like in your love and your relationships? My wife and I this last year, we said, hey, we're going to plan our week together every Sunday afternoon. Because we felt that was a point of connection. We were getting too much going in our own directions. And we weren't going to get anywhere together. And so we had to go, hey, we need to level this up. What about your finances? Or about your family and your relationship with your children? My children are now adults. I married my youngest off recently. And we're empty nesters, and we're learning what that's all about, which is kind of ridiculously fun, by the way. More probably for me than it is for her. That won't make the tape, I hope. But our friends, our friendships. And here's the thing. I realized in 2023, I suck as a friend. I am not a good friend. I'm chasing the wind, man. I'm going after all kinds of crazy stuff. I have to level this up. I have to stop and make time for people in my life. You know, do you have a hobby? Work has been my hobby. You see where I'm going with this? I mean, listen, this is important for you to self-assess. My spiritual life, something that, hey, I got to pay attention to. Because on the inside is what comes on the outside. And let me tell you something. This is a whole inside-out deal. This whole journey of how you finish a year is an inside-out operation. And we're going to get into it on that end. But I need you to do a couple things. So I want you to write those life arenas down. And I want you to just go, hey, if I'm a 6, okay, what am I aspiring to? What's the level I want to go to? Do I want to go to an 8? Well, then the question is, what is the gap strategy? What are you going to do? What does an 8, because if I'm not clear about what an 8 looks like, if I sit down and go, this is what an 8 looks like, and this is what I want to do as an 8, well then now I got to figure out what I'm going to do in the context of that. So if I'm coaching you, I'm going, hey, tell me your numbers. Tell me your numbers, tell me the gap, tell me what this means, because this has to mean something. It has to be descriptive. Hey, I want to be able to get out of bed in the morning and not feel like I got hit by a truck. Beautiful. Okay, that's a start. What do we got to do? And then we can start moving that direction. Are you with me? If you're with me, give me a woohoo. Woohoo. Okay, you'll get better at those. Okay, but do you see where I'm going at with this? Do you see where I'm going at with this? So it's really important. It's really important that you assess, and you should be assessing. I evaluate this weekly. I look at myself every Friday afternoon. How you end a week is how you start the next. So if I'm a high performer, I got to be on point with everything where I'm at. So I'm measuring where I'm at. And I'm not happy all the time on Friday afternoon, but at least I know on Monday what I'm going after and what I'm attacking or what I'm making time for. Does that make sense? All right. Good deal. So homework. This is your first piece of homework. Rate yourself, define the level you want to go to, and then figure out, hey, what do you need to do? Send me this. This would be beautiful. I would love to see what you got with that. Good so far? We are just getting started, guys. This is just getting started. So the key here is developing your performance edge. Every year it's critical we set time aside to develop our performance edge. It's a time of reflection and strategy. It keeps our heads clear, our confidence high, with a strong focus on the needle-moving behaviors in our leadership and our lives. It's just what we're doing today. So we're defining what our performance edge is. If I'm striving for my 8 and my 9 and my 6 and my 8 and my 10 and my whatever these things are, I know I'm in a positive focus. I know I'm in a positive frame. I know I'm going somewhere that's different than where I am today. And you need to be thinking about that. So we talked about this in the past. You've seen this in the past. Hey, we have been going through success level 1. We all have success level 1s. Every level we go to is where we're competent, we're certain, we're safe. I do this every time. We get stuck in success level 1 because we want to protect it. We want to perfect it. We want to maintain it. We like the familiar. We like where we're at. The problem is what we don't like is conflict and struggle. And because we want to avoid conflict and struggle, we won't embrace the whole idea of being incompetent, uncertain, and criticized. If I decide to act on this, if I decide to take a risk here in my relationship, and do that. If I decide to do that, and all of a sudden now I'm risking and I'm thrashing. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. And we don't like uncertainty. And we came through a season, we're going to talk about in a minute, where we were blown away by how uncertain things got. And we can get triggered easy to kind of want to stay in that little cocoon of safety. But what I've learned is, hey, and I've said this before, this is Blockbuster Video, this is Netflix. This is New York City taxi cab drivers, this is Uber. Listen, there's someone out there on a business level and even at a personal level, because I've seen this in organizations where a guy's been there for 20 years, but it's been year 2 18 times. And now, all of a sudden, this whippersnapper shows up, and in 3 years, he's his boss. And the 26-year-old now is leading the 46-year-old, and the 46-year-old's not happy, and he's making everybody in the whole organization uncomfortable because he didn't work on him, and he didn't level up. He stayed in success level 1, and 2 walked right in the door. You guys ever see that before? That happens. Maybe some of you are that whippersnapper. He's in the back going like, yeah, I know that. I know that world. All right, so with that said, we have to be thinking about what we've been through. So in 2020, I mean, we were looking for security. We got punched in the face. We were protective and we were very internal. And a lot of people during that time, since we so much internalized, we got into achievement mode. And that whole idea of achieving came into place, and there was a lot of people who just kind of cycled and burned out. In this season of my coaching journey, I had more conversations about burnout than I've ever had before. And then all of a sudden we get into 21 and 22, and now the uncertainty is gone. We know kind of what the deal is, but now there's all this other kinds of dynamics happening, and we're experiencing stress. And what I found is people were coping at that stage. And when they were coping, they were grasping. They wanted something new. It was shiny object. And guess what? In personal development world, it blew up during the season because people were looking for something. They were looking for certainty. They wanted a path of where to go next. And they were just, the number of my phone rang off the hook. I had never had more interest and more phone calls during this season because people wanted answers and they wanted a path. And what I started realizing is they had so many answers and too many answers. They dabbled in everything and they were frustrated. And then all of a sudden you had that to deal with. And now we're in what I call phase 3. And phase 3 is where all of a sudden now we're in recessions. Now that there's much more, a little bit back, we call it normal, but the normal has a lot of uncertainty wrapped around it. Would you agree with me? A lot of all the economic dynamics, organizational dynamics, all kinds of things. And what I'm looking at here now is the separation is starting to happen. The people in this phase are going to be more the people who are like, we got to be productive. We got to figure this out. We got to come back to the office. We got to be about making sure that we're efficient and effective at what we do. This whole deal is going to be about performance. And the people who really did due diligence here in terms of focus are going to have a level of mastery that other people won't. There'll be a separation and people will stand out. And it's these people here that will get into the flow that will make it, because you're going to have layoffs coming. It's coming. It's coming. The economy is we're going to get punched in the face economically at some point. The trains are coming down the track. You cannot avoid it. So if you work in an ancillary service, if you work in a service industry, if you're anything like that, you got to make sure that you're shoring up your relationships. You need to make sure you're shoring up your value that you're adding. Because if you are not adding value to the organization, at some point, if the organization has to make decisions, you're not going to like the decision they're going to make. So make sure that you're doing due diligence and focusing on making sure that you're adding value and that you're bringing mastery and performance to what you're doing. You're in a building stage. Does this make sense? I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to say these are the realities that we're walking into. And everyone says, because how long have we been talking about a recession? And they say the recession usually happens every 10 years, right? We're going on what? And you keep thinking it's going to be this and it's going to be this. I thought we'd be here a long time ago. And we're not. But I'm starting to see the cracks. The conversations I'm having with business owners that I coach are more about who's going to make it and who's not going to make it. It's not, we can't find people anymore. Everybody okay? So just make sure that we're tracking and we're thinking and focusing our direction on performance as we wrap up the year. All right, let's keep going. So how do you master your mindset? Because I think the mind game is the game. Okay, the mind game is the game. So I want you to make sure that these are things that you need to be mastering. This is called NFR awareness. It's negative first reactions. We have been so captured in the last 3 years by our negative reactions. And the negative reactions that we have to situations, circumstances that we encounter every day that set the tone for our influence and impact. It's the negative first reactions. It's the idea of looking at it half empty. I've been battling with my clients and different elements of people that I coach on the executive level, trying to work through them not having negative first reactions. Why can't it be a positive reaction? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But how aware are you? If you had to rate yourself on your reactions to situations? Are they more negative or are they more positive? This is audience participation part of the program, by the way. So how many would say we've been more skeptical, perhaps? Anybody? Okay. So we have to work on that because we need to build that awareness and we need to assess. So you need to be aware of, and this is a question, this is homework, what are some of your negative first reactions? Now, some people's negative first reactions are they don't like any ideas. That's a negative first reaction. Any new idea? They're grumpy. There's always, I don't know how that's going to go, right? That's you have that whole, do people drag their feet? Some people drag their feet. Some people, hey, because we want to stay safe and secure, remember success level 1, because we want to perfect and we want to protect. And now all of a sudden, I have to change how I'm doing something. Like how is AI affecting you guys?
We're still figuring it out.
You're still figuring out, just like everyone else. And guess what? There's a part of what I'm doing a forum for a trade association on it this Thursday on a Zoom. And I had everybody send me their initial things. And you know what the number one question is? How much are we going to have to change what we're doing? And you know what I wrote back to everybody? One word, or maybe it's two. It's probably 2 words. A lot. I made it 1 word. But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, when you look at that, you start going like, wow, you know what? We're going to have to change. What are yours? You need to be aware of what your negative first reactions are. Because sometimes it's a look. Sometimes it's a pause. Sometimes it's like, I'm not giving that the energy. I'm not going to promote that with my nod. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to pause. Whatever that is, you need to be aware of where your negative first reactions are. With me so far? Homework. That's homework. So you need to do that. Also have to have a positive reaction mindset, right? So we want to make sure we have positive reaction conditioning. This is the fun part, kids. This is the part where we get to get excited. So positive reactive decisions we make in situations, circumstances that we encounter that sets the tone for influence and impact. So in other words, our positive reaction conditioning is more of saying like, hey, does anyone ever watch the show Parks and Recreation? There's a guy named Chris Traeger on there. And Chris Traeger is like a guy who is kind of the city manager for this television show of this city called Pawnee, Indiana. And what Chris Traeger says, absolutely, that is the most wonderful thing I've ever seen. Like his positive, like everything for him. If you know that character at all, he's like that. Hey, that's a wonderful thing. Whenever he sees something, he goes, Chris White. How you doing? He always says someone's name when he sees them. It's always, that is like the poster child for positive reaction conditioning. He just says, and what happens is he affects others in the very same way. It's kind of funny. I can walk into a room and I can change the energy in a room. You can too. If the energy, let me say this real quick. The energy of the people that you lead will never exceed that of yours. Never. If you're leading anybody in an organization, your energy level that you bring will always be the people that you lead will always be at least 2 below you. So if I need you guys to be at a 7, where do I need to be?
9.
A 9. Now here's what's crazy. Rarely do I need you at an 8, because if I was at a 10, it would scare the children, right? It's not what we're looking for here. It's not about scaring people. It's about encouraging people. It's about bringing energy. But listen, you guys have been around me, right? I'm not like dancing on the table, am I? No. But there's a point of where our energy has to affect a positive mindset. And we have to work in a positive way. And folks, we got to get so much better at this. I sit on a lot of senior leadership teams and executive teams, and I sit in there and dude, I go, dude, who got in trouble? And they go, what are you talking about? I said, look at your faces. you know? And so I remember seeing a sign one time, and it said, if you've got Jesus in your heart, you might want to notify your face. So, boom chakalaka on that one, right? So we want to make sure we're mastering it, you know, and we have to also be thinking, what are some positive reactions we can focus on when we're confronted with negative situations? What are those? What are those positive reactions? You should have like a game plan of what you're bringing. And so I have some like, you know, one might be like, wow, that's very interesting. I might not, it might be a negative situation. That's really interesting. I bet you, if we work hard, we figure this out. It's just, it's all in how you address it. With me so far? This is an inner game about how you finish. You have to get good at this. So let me share with you what my secret sauce in coaching is so you can self-coach, okay? So what we have been doing in this first stage is what is called clarity stage. Whenever I coach a client, whenever I coach a team or work with an organization, my very first place I'm starting is clarity. So I'm asking you what your numbers are. When I'm saying, hey, what are your negative first reactions? What are your positive reaction mindsets? What are those things? Do you know where you are? I want to make sure we have a high level of clarity about what it is. When I say, hey, I want you to tell me what an 8 is, and I want to know what all those outcomes are, what you're trying to achieve, I want a level of clarity, because if you can see yourself in that next level, it's so much easier for you to go there. It's when it's the magical mystery tour, okay, and we just kind of go, I just want to get better. I do not let anyone say that word. We're not here to get better. We're going to another level. And every level you go to will always require something new from you. Always. So we have to figure out what's going to have to be different starting today. You're paying me too much money to show up, and this is not like, I'm not girlfriending here. You do that at lunch with your girlfriends, right? You go, you know, I'm not here to be your buddy. I'm here to go, hey, what do we got to do? And how do we need to level up? Good so far? All right. If we have clarity, then we have energy. When I know this, if we spend the time to get this, and I make you mad enough to say what it is that you really want to do and what you really want to be, trust me, we're going to have some energy at the end of that. And once we have that energy, it will always take us to a point of courage. The first 3 are very intertwined. Clarity, energy, courage. Sometimes clarity has to come through conflict. Fasten your seatbelt. It may not be fun to get clarity, because sometimes things have to be said to know where you stand or where others stand. So things have to be clear, but when you have clarity, then we can put the right kind of energy, the right kind of focus on it. Sometimes that focus requires courage, because we got to say something or we have to do something that we don't want to do. We doing okay? About all right so far? And then once we get that, what's kind of funny is our priorities start falling in line. And when our priorities fall in line, we start getting momentum. And when we get momentum, people want a piece of you. When I work with whippersnappers, I work with my whippersnapper kids, 18 to 29-year-olds, all you whippersnappers out there. I always tell them, I said, hey, this is the key to becoming a person of interest. If you want to be a person of interest in a community and an organization, you master these 4 things and people will follow you. They'll want a piece of you. But too many people aren't clear. And they don't have the right energy going in the right direction. And there's no displays of courage. And because of that, the priorities are all misaligned. And then what happens is they're just typical. Typical. And you don't stand out. Everybody okay? You get this? So, hey, if you're struggling, you can self-coach. Hey, do I have clarity around this? How do I know if I got clarity? When you have energy. That's how you know when you have clarity. And when you have energy, you're going to have an oh crap moment. You're going to go, oh no, I'm going to have that conversation. I'm going to have to make that ask. Courage. Well, I can't be a hypocrite and make that ask, so I better get my poop in a group, and I better make sure that I am on point with what I'm doing so it matches. My priorities need to be lined up. And once my priorities lined up, then when I make the ask, I'll have influence. Does this make sense? Okay. I love this stuff. I just love this stuff. So this is cool. This is worth the price of admission. And so have fun with that. So here's another homework assignment. As we're wrapping up the year, you say the year's not over yet. It's not over yet, but I want you to do it anyway. This year, I'm glad I did what? I'm glad it could fit your business. I'm glad I learned this year. What did I learn this year? I wish I struggled, I failed at, I crushed this. Listen, you need to journal through this. You need to work through this list because, first of all, if you crush something and you didn't party, that's on you. And we're not good at celebrating ourselves. We're good at telling us everything is wrong with ourselves. We're good at that part. But every now and then, do it by yourself. Get the cold foam on top of the cold brew next time. You know that little happy foam stuff they put on there? That's like celebrate. Do something. What did you overcome this year? When I do this with clients, it's kind of funny. I'll do this with clients and we'll do this in a verbal setting. And what's very powerful about that is they'll get emotional. Like when I say, what did you overcome this year? Man, you know what? This happened. And often they'll look at me and they'll go, that happened this year? You know how time just explodes sometimes and you lose the context or the concept of it? And then they're going like, wow, this has been transformational. This has been incredible. And all of a sudden I can just start seeing them tear up. And I'm going, that's powerful. You need to understand how important that is. You build a house. Dude, stress, baby. You overcame the stress of building a home. Choices, decisions, all that stuff. There's all kinds of things. Listen, there's all kinds of things that we have to understand about ourselves. Listen, when I do this, we throw it on, I write on these things all the time, but we'll put their whole life of these things on a wall, and I go, what does this tell you? And man, 9 times out of 10, they're going like, wow, a lot happened, and I'm so much better than I ever thought I was. Their perspective of themselves starts to change. And because you guys are so brutally mean to yourselves, you need that. You need that. Do that for yourself. Dude, don't do it for me. Do this for you, okay? But I'm telling you, it's worth it. With me so far? Give me a woohoo. Better. That was better. Okay. So let me give you a couple things to assess as we're continuing to assess. This is called the Focus 4. And basically it's going to be, hey, what do we need to review, clarify, assess, and attack? And I'm going to get burning rubber on this. But when it comes to between now and the end of the year, what do we need to clean up? What needs to get cleaned up? And then the second thing is there are some things that just need to be dealt with. And then what do we need to follow up on? In other words, what do I need to follow up on and push across the finish line? There's all kinds of, if you were in dabbling mode, in 2022, and you got beginning of 2023, and you got all these unfinished stuff, like, okay, well, if I got to clean it up, I'll clean up some of this stuff, and I'm not going to I'll discard it, but then what do I need to follow up? What do I need to push across the finish line? And then the third thing is, what do I need to set up? What systems and processes and structures need to be set up? Most of the time, this is a season for you to make productivity changes. We try to make productivity changes when, typically?
It's too late.
What's that? January. Yeah, in the new year. Too late. You need to make them now. My clients, we work on, hey, what do we need to be setting up? I need you to be running on January 2nd. You can have the 1st. I need you on the 2nd to be at full on. I don't want a phone call on January 20th of your unhappiness of where things are because you feel like you're already behind and the new year has started. Because I get those. I want this whole year to do this at the end of the year so that when you come into 2024, you're on fire. And I will guarantee you, that month of January, you being on point will be a game changer for you if you know what you're doing going into it. The last one is, where do I need to level up? What areas do I need to level up in so I can live and lead with energy and vibrancy? Where do I need to level up in? Where do I need to get punched in the face? Where do I need to go and get a dose of truth? So let me ask you a question. You need to write this down. The names of 2 truth tellers in your life. Who are 2 truth tellers in your life? When you ask them the hard questions about, hey, this is where I rated myself, and they go, yeah, you're full of crap on that. Who are your truth tellers? Because those are the people I want you to be sitting down with on this part of level up, and sitting going, hey, where do I need to level up? Well, actually, Kevin, you don't ever return my texts. And a lot of times when I call, it always goes to voicemail. And you're always busy. And every time we talk, it's always about what you're talking about and what you're doing. It's never about, I never wonder if you ever interested in me. You don't think I had that conversation recently? I had it 2 weeks ago. That's why I said I'm not doing good here. Because my truth teller told me the truth. And that's why he's my friend. It's a wonderful thing about a friend is there are very few people. I lost my friend Matt Potter. And I only have really what I would call 3 friends. One of them is my wife. And Matt passed away. So I only have one guy left in my life who knows everything about me and still likes me. Right? He knows everything about me, still likes me anyway. And that's what I got. Not good. I got some work to do. Okay? So, hey, I'm working on me too. So, just saying. All right, good there? So what you do is, once you get those things, let's go back here quick. Once you make a list of these things, then I would say, hey, graph it. So when you graph it, look at your impact grid. Look at, hey, how much impact will it have, but how much effort does it take? And start looking and plot each of those things on the graph. If you've got to make, if you're saying, hey, I got to take a class at Ohio State, okay, well, it's going to probably have a high amount of cost. It might have a high impact, but it might be sitting somewhere over here where I need to make sure that I return texts to my friend will have a high impact and a very low cost. Does that make sense? So this is just a great tool. And then when you get over here, then you write down your priorities and your actions, what you're going to do. This is just a good tool to assess, hey, I've got all these things going on my list, but where do they fall? And I would just dig into that. What time are we at, Chris?
We're good. We're at about 10:15.
Beautiful. We're right on point. With me on that one? So now, once we've done assessments, okay, we've looked at assessing. Again, we're talking 4th quarter. And the beautiful thing is, are we in the 4th quarter right now? Not yet. Right? Does not give you permission to procrastinate, by the way. Okay, all I'm saying is that you got an early jump on this, because this is the conversation I start having with everybody at the beginning of next month. You're getting in early. So you're sitting down going like, all right, hey, if I get these things out of my head and I'm focusing on what I need to focus on, when the 4th quarter starts, I'm running in the 4th quarter and I'm attacking this thing. But now, once we've done assessments and things we need to work on from an assessment standpoint, I want to start moving towards aspirations. This is the part, guys, I can tell you, I just got to tell you a quick story. So I was in Los Angeles for my first Mastermind. And it's one of those situations where you talk about being uncomfortable, I'm uncomfortable. I'm around people who are light years ahead of me. I mean, I'm just like, I paid money to be in this, and I'm kind of going like, okay, how's this going to go? What's this going to be like? And so we met for the first day, and there were some topic stuff that we talked. But the second day was all of us together, and we sat down. And the guy who was leading our mastermind, he said, I want to know. I want to start with somebody. We're going to call it the hot seat. And there's a guy named John. He got on the hot seat, and he says, I want you to tell me what your 6-month goal is. And he said, now these are all content creator people. So John sat down and he says, I have a $10,000 program that I just finished that I want to launch. And I would like to make $500,000 by the end of the year, or the next 6 months with that. And he says, great. He says, how are you going to do that? And he says, well, I've contacted 100 potential affiliates. An affiliate are people that you would give them a piece of it if they were to promote it and sell it for you. He says, I've got 25 high potentials out of that list of 100. He says, great. He goes, call them right now. And the guy goes, what? He goes, call him, John. Just go, take your phone, go over there, call him. He says, what offer are you going to give him? He says, well, I told him I would give him 25% and 6 months. He says, great, go close him. So John gets up out of his hot seat and he walks over, and which is really cool is we were at the Griffith Observatory, which is right by the Hollywood sign and all that stuff. It was really, really scenic, and I'm sweating bullets, man. I do not want to sit in that chair. I am like freaking out. I bet you my heart rate was like 160, you know. And so I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and I'm hearing John on the phone, and we're talking about other things. John comes back and he says, tell us, John, what happened? He says, I got them all. He says, way to go. We're like, yeah, you know how that is. You go, yeah, John, way to go, John. John goes, the guy who's leading it says, go back and call him again. And he goes, excuse me? And he goes, call him again, offer him 50% and tell him they have 24 hours to sell it. And it was quiet, man. And so he gets up, he walks over, and he starts making phone calls. And he was there for probably 45 minutes. He came back, he sat down, and he said, they all said yes. He says, good. He says, well, you just launched your program. Next day, he shows up with a big smile on his face. And he opens up his bank app, and he's got $272,000 in the bank. And he said, he goes, John, you gave half of that away. I think you hit your $500,000 goal. He says, plus, I want you to contact them 3 more times to do 3 more runs on this in the next 2 weeks. The last email sequence I got from him that he shared to the group, he was at 1.3, 1.4. The thing is, what's crazy about this is we have aspirations. Would you agree with me? But when we set our own timelines, we tend to so over-exaggerate how long we think something's really going to take, when if we were just activated. As a coach, I was inspired. As a coach, I'm sitting there going like, I have so many people say, I want to accomplish this in this long and I want to do this. But it made me want to be a lot more direct in terms of saying, hey, let's take action now. So when we talk about aspirations for the fourth quarter, I want to implement a mindset in you of going and getting it. Not waiting for it to come to you. Not waiting for all the conditions to be perfect or not. Because definitely, if you would have saw John's face, that dude was pooping his pants all the way over there to that wall to make those phone calls. But he, like me, and the 8 others in our group, all paid money for this. We paid money to get punched in the face. And so guess what? He took it like a champ. He took it like a champ. And I tell you what, he's smiling now. And all the bruises heal, right? All this stuff heals. And he's in probably, his business has never been in better shape. So I'm going to be very clear about the fact that aspirations aren't things that these aspirations need to be finished by the end of this year. Are you with me? So I want you to write them down. So typically what happens is aspirations are about 4 areas. Being, relating, creating and building, and growth. Write those 4 areas down because you have aspirations. And I want you to get really clear about what that aspiration is. I want to be this. I need to be a better friend. And so my aspirations aren't just about being a better friend, right? Better is not a word we're allowing, right? So I want to be a friend, and then I'm going to describe. I want to be a friend that is going to be in constant contact, that's going to be an encourager for them each and every day. I want to be a friend you see how I'm getting descriptive about what that looks like? I need you to get that descriptive. I want you, if your aspiration is, hey, I want to lead a department, I don't want that to be your aspiration. I want to know how you're going to lead that department. I want to lead the department with energy and effectiveness. I want to be somebody who brings and levels up the energy in a room every time I walk in it. I want whatever you start writing down, I want you to write down what you want when it comes to relating, or what are you building? I want to be able to build this particular business, or I want to build this team, or I want to build my family. What is it? What are your aspirations? I want to give you a minute. I'm going to give you a minute. Write down some things that you would say, hey, these are some aspirations I have, because I know you have them. I had a client one time who said, my aspiration, Kevin, is to work for 2 months and take 1 month off. Work for 2 months. He had I think it was a $25 million company. He had a team of about, 75 employees in that realm. And I said, but what are you gonna do in the month off? Like, you're just gonna go crazy and, you can only go playing golf and go fishing so much. Like, what are you gonna do? And what he realized is he did not have a plan for post-retirement. He didn't have he realized when we were going through the whole process, he had this epiphany, and he said, I feel like if I quit working, I'm gonna die. And said, well, what are you passionate about? And he says, I'm passionate about, helping, people less fortunate have experiences that I had as a kid going into wilderness. I said, well, what do you think that would look like? He says, well, I always wondered what it would be like to start a nonprofit. I go, wow, isn't that interesting? So what would that nonprofit be like? And we kept going through the process of defining. The more clarity he got, what do you think happened to his energy? How passionate do you think he was now about getting that month off? Had he not done that, I don't think the energy level would have been there for him to leave, because golf wasn't compelling. Golf wasn't worth it. Sitting on a beach or hanging out or going to his cabin and all that stuff. But when all of a sudden he started talking about, hey, I want to grab kids from the inner city and take them camping, and we started talking about grant writers and things like that, and he goes, there are people that do that? Oh, yeah. And now his courage level goes up, and he starts asking for money. He's going now he's got donors. He doesn't work at the company anymore. He just runs a nonprofit. And it's fun to watch how an aspiration transformed this guy's life. His level of purpose and his presence just skyrocketed because of it. You need to be thinking about your aspirations, friends, because you don't know what you're missing out on if you don't take the time. And it's not selfish, and it's not, self-centered and indulgent. It's really necessary for you to have the level of clarity that you really want to have. Be really clear about what your aspirations are. Once we get our aspirations, then I'm going to challenge you. I want you to determine the first 3 moves you need to make. And you need to document those moves, and then you got to schedule those moves. His first move was, I got to start a nonprofit. I have to have a board. Great. Who do you want on your board? And then it started, and then all of a sudden, one domino started knocking over another domino, and all of a sudden he had momentum. And it was powerful. Listen to me. The most important part of this slide is the bottom. Because once you determine your moves, and you document them, and you schedule them, you have to be figured out. who I need to ask or what I need to ask, who I need to tell and what I need to say, and what are the timelines for this. And I'm telling you, I push really hard on asks and tells because you got to put yourself out there. And sometimes that's the biggest form of courage that you got to lean into. Does that make sense? With me so far? So you got homework to do. How many aspirations do you think you can handle at one time? Anybody got a guess on that one? One, yes, maybe two, for sure. At two at the most. If you try to do three, I'll come and see you in the emergency room. Trying to do three. But think about those. Here's the deal. And then guess what? Go back to the impact grid. If you've got 6, that's okay, you got 6. I have aspirations for each of my children. I want to have relationships with my children. I have aspirations for them. So I have certain, they end up on the grid. Sometimes I want more for them than they want for themselves, and it's frustrating as a parent, right? But that's one of those things that, hey, that's why we're doing this. The best version of you has to come out by the end of this year. You got to be rocking a 9. You have to be rocking a 9. It don't matter about anyone else. It doesn't matter about the economy. It doesn't happen about all the things you can't control. You have to be at a 9. Period. What's going to get you there? Well, your pray drive is the part of this I want to throw at you last before we wrap up here. And again, it's intention, and that comes from everything. I'll let you guys read all this, but intentions are where your aspirations. Your aspiration has an attachment to an intention, but then you have to activate, and then you got to maintain that intensity. But the word I want to focus on is persistence. Most people fall off at persistence. They start with good intention, but they fail to follow through. There's a lack of discipline, a lack of structure, there's no accountability, and they do things in isolation. They're not doing asks and tells. So everything, your aspirations are secrets. And it goes nowhere when that happens. They experience guilt, and then they beat themselves up, and usually that guilt is associated with grief, and it's grieving of what they could have been. And I listen, I do not want you mourning your potential. And I bump into too many middle-aged dudes who are thinking it's all over. Well, dude, if you study and you look at the whole world of success, most people have made impact in their lives after 50 than before. So you just getting started. Dude, I'm 60. I'm just getting started, kids. And trust me, the reason I went to the gym and lost the weight is because I want bonus years. I got too much I want to accomplish. And within my control, I'm going to stay at a 9 as long as I can. But what does that look like? I don't want you mourning your potential. The key is to fight through the feelings and create accountability and collaboration and win with persistence. Stay persistent. The first 3 we talked about, this is the key. And I think that's why you need to have accountability, whether it be through a coach or a friend or whoever that is that you meet with who says, I know where you're going and I'm going to help you get there. Your asks, your tells, your timelines, everything all fits together. With me so far? Good deal? So, how we close out a year directly impacts the level of growth and influence we have in the coming year. It's all there right in front of you. Next year lives right now. Next year and the next 3 months, it's all right in front of you to set the table for a 2024 and for you to be on fire. And when everyone else is stuck in either success level 1, you're going to be in 2. When everyone else is stuck in the first 2 phases, you're going to be in that performance phase. You're going to be in that separation phase. You're going to be in that mastery phase. You're going to be in that momentum. And that's the key. So, sustain your growth. Be strategic, be intentional, and be disciplined. And that is our coaching session for today, folks. So your homework is in front of you. You email me your homework at invisibleinsights@gmail.com. I will follow you up with some other things. And if you would start getting weekly emails from me, if you wanted, you can always unsubscribe from those if you don't want to see the bald guy. It's usually a 3-minute video called Midweek Motivation that I throw out there. But if you send it to me, I'll send you, I have a course that I do, and I'll send you access to that course that will take it further than what you have right here. So, all good? Everybody all right? Give me a big woohoo! Yes! Have a great day, everybody. Do some damage.